Hi everybody and welcome to another episode of Haunt Talk. In today's episode we are going to be continuing our review of Florida, Orlando-ish areas around there. And today we are reviewing a place that we've been wanting to go to for a while called Mortem Manor.
Yep.
And it's in Old Town Kissimmee. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Kissimmee?
Yeah.
Kissimmee's kind of like a little very touristy looking, kind of gives you almost like boardwalk type vibes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was saying when we got there, it kind of gave us Geneva on the Lake.
Yeah, so if you're from Ohio,
vibes.
You might know what that means.
But boardwalk is a good way to describe it. Lots of little shops and there's some rides and things like that. But the main reason we went was for this Mortem Manor.
It's literally the only reason. I don't think we went in any place else besides Mortem Manor and Mortem's post-mortem their gift shop.
Yeah.
It is cool because when you're walking down the street, every place again looks very old town vibe and stuff like that. And then there's just this big haunted mansion looking thing slapped between them, which I'm sure I'll have a picture of. I know I have a picture of. I didn't take many pictures on our trip, but I did take a picture for the thumbnail for that. But yeah, so I will preface the review by saying we were pretty disappointed by this.
Yeah.
We've heard lots of good things, but yeah, we're going to get into that more. So as always, we're going to start off with the normal review, as it's different than the ones we've been doing for the theme parks, where we just talk about them. We're actually going to be doing a normal review for this one. Sorry if there's a lot of background noise going on, but yep. All right, so sets and props.
All right, so there was a few interesting things. I thought their sets were fairly decent. They were, it was your basic haunted mansion themed. They did have a sideways room. There was a laser swamp in there. It was just a hallway though, so it wasn't a huge
it did have a
area.
floor that was kind of squishy.
And yeah, it had a squishy floor. They had a really cool Cthulhu.
Yeah, that was definitely the highlight of it.
It was in this big, huge room, and it took up most of the room. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
It's definitely the biggest room they had, and you kind of weaved in and out of pews. And then, there was a big Cthulhu prop at the end. That was pretty neat. There's one section before you went upstairs that there was a Jaws type of thing.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't come out very far, and it wasn't really lit, but it was there, and it did move.
Yeah, it was one of those big puppets that the people are usually standing behind and they push it out and stuff, but it was a big old Jaws shark.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. It could definitely needed some lighting, because I kind of stopped and I was kind of looking at it and I'm like, oh, it's a shark.
Yeah, there was a lot of and we'll talk more about it, I guess, and probably value, but a lot of stairs, just up and down, so a lot of blank space.
Mm-hmm.
So there was that, but what was there was pretty well detailed. There was, I think, a lab scene and a medical scene. It didn't really follow much of a theme besides, it had the theme of, being a haunted house, but then again, there's things like the lab, a random laser swamp, a church. So, and then, it advertises as being 2 floors, but almost all of it is on the second floor. There's very little on the first floor. There's, an introductory area, and then there's, I think it's a itty-bitty tiny cemetery, or maybe it's a crypt scene at the very end.
Yeah, there was a little cemetery scene,
Yeah, they did have a lot of scents, so there's a lot of smells and stuff like that. And like I said, the detail was good. It's just nothing we haven't seen before outside of the Cthulhu statue. Everything was just very run-of-the-mill, this is a haunted house type of thing. So we went ahead and we gave sets and props a 7. It was the best part of the experience was the sets and props of the place.
Definitely. So that moves us towards actors. Now, mind you, this is one of those year-round haunts.
Yeah, it's mainly open on weekends, I think, but it is year-round.
But, I mean, it is, kind of the start of spooky season, and you would think that they would have a little bit more actors in there, and there really wasn't a lot.
There wasn't. I think 4 or 5 at most.
Yeah, and the ones that were in there weren't really doing anything. there was a few of them where they just were standing there staring at us, and it was just kind of like awkward.
Yeah,
and
there was one where we went up
strange.
and there's a girl behind a desk and she like slowly stood up and then just sat back down basically. Didn't say anything. I don't know if maybe she didn't know we were coming. We did like the guy that gives the spiel when you walk in, like the safety thing. He kept like making like cannibalism jokes about eating us and stuff.
Yes.
He was definitely the most interactive because I mean he was like the opening guy who took your tickets and stuff like that. I think this haunted house really needs that because it is, and we're going to talk about more value, but it's not a long haunted house, so I feel like stopping people in the scenes and really having the actors be more interactive with them. Maybe we just had a bad show. Like, let us know if you've been there and, you know, if you've had a different experience. But, yeah, when we went through, there wasn't much with the actor. And there was the girl in the laser swamp. She was the only one that actually scared me because she popped out of laser swamp and made a loud noise. So, of course, that does scare you. And she did talk to us. She's one of the only ones with lines besides the opening guy. She told us some like there are no gods here, and she said you can praise Cthulhu if you want to. Although I think she pronounced it Cthulhu, and she kept saying Cthulhu, and I'm like, anyways. And then the following room was the one with Cthulhu. But yeah, so the actors weren't like terrible, but it was just very average, and most of them just didn't do much.
Yeah.
They would just kind of look at you, like they didn't really try and hide or jump scare you. They just looked at you.
And ironically,
Didn't even talk.
one of them actually called us boring.
Yeah, I didn't even hear that, but yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like...
But actors, we gave a 5 to. Next up is scare factor. You know, I don't think we need to go on this one too much, but I mean, because again, we said like it was mainly actors. There were some animatronics that didn't scare me, but like startled me a little bit. Like there was one that like came out of the wall and stuff out of like a black hole. Loud noises and being claustrophobic would be the main thing because it is a pretty confined haunt for the most part. There's a lot of like narrow passages. But yeah, for the most part, it's very mild. So yeah, this would be one that would be probably fine to take the kids to. They're a score, but not like a copious amount of gore.
Yeah, it would probably be a good like starter.
Yeah, this would be like a good one because actually, people that had went through it, they weren't with us, but we were in the gift shop and like they were talking. It was like I think a mom and her daughter or something, and the daughter was like, "Oh, that's not nearly as bad as I thought it would be." She's like, "Well, don't worry, Halloween Horror Nights is going to be a lot worse than this." So I mean, and this was like a younger kid saying it, so to kind of give you a gauge of that. So yeah, scare factor, we gave it a 5. It wasn't very scary.
Yeah. So moving towards value. The haunt was $18 per person. You can currently only pay at the door.
Which is weird. It's a COVID protocol that you can only purchase at the door, which is strange because usually it's the opposite way. You have to get it online.
Yeah.
But
whatever.
Yeah, whatever. I just found it weird the website said that.
It took us about 7 or 8 minutes, and I mean, you know us, we walk slow, and yeah, it took us 7 to 8 minutes walking through it.
Right. And now, keep in mind, I'd say probably 2 minutes of this is just standing in a room listening to that guy's spiel.
Yeah.
And then I'd say at least another 1-ish to 2 minutes is just going up and down all these stairs.
Yeah.
Because there's like a lot of that. So like when you really break it down, you're only getting about 4 to 5 minutes, if that, of actual haunt time for 18 a person. Like this is the length of a Halloween Horror Nights haunt or a Busch Gardens haunt, which those, you know, we've been talking about those. So it just feels like 18 a person for as small as this haunt is, and for it to be kind of lackluster. Doesn't feel like the best value. Now, if it was like back to back, like really scary and stuff, then I'd say the value's higher. But I just don't know at $18 a person how much I'd recommend doing it, especially traveling out of your way. Because if you're watching this video, you probably are someone that's vacationing in the Florida area. I don't know if I'd say it's worth the money to get an Uber or rent a car to drive to Kissimmee if you're in Orlando, to pay $18 a person to go through this place. If you're already in Kissimmee and you're a haunt enthusiast, I'd probably tell you to check it out just because, like, it's been around for quite a while. It's kind of like a classic thing now almost, I guess. But yeah, for value, we gave it a 5. Just very average in value. Not terrible, but not good.
So that brings us to our overall score, and we gave them a 5.5.
Yeah.
Just because we did give them a little bit more on sets and props, because that was probably the best part of the entire experience.
Yeah, 'cause they did have some cool sets and props, and like I said, with the scents and that, but they just need more actors that, or just make the actors more interactive. Yeah. But have you been there? Did you get a better show than us? And again, sometimes you just get bad showings at places.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, make sure to like and subscribe. We also have the merch store. You can go check that out. Ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos. And also, there is that Super Thanks thing on YouTube as well. So if you like, it's basically a way to give us a tip. You like purchase a comment. It's cool. Thank you for those who have done that.
Yes.
And our Patreon. We have that as well. There's like little gifts and stuff like that. So if you want your name in the credits, and if we get more, we could do exclusive content. But right now, we don't have enough to really be doing that kind of thing. But if you want to help support us, that's another great way. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in the next episode.
Bye.